If you're running a 7 or 8 figure business and you do not have a financial and business operating system that you can run your operations off, then you are leaving potentially $1 million or more on the table. And let me explain to you why. So I've worked with thousands of business owners over the years, and the vast majority of them have something in common. They typically started their business as a technician. They had a particular job that they did very well, and they decided to go out on their own because they knew that they could make more money because they were pretty exceptional at what they did. And it was just through the scale and their success that they went into a manager, then they become a leader, and ultimately they've positioned themselves as an entrepreneur. The issue doesn't lie in that progression, but it lies in the underlying skill set of a technician. That as a technician, you are a problem solver. You are really good at working out how to solve particular problems. And the issue is not the how, it's the who. And how do you actually get the right people on board, the right who's, that can go on to solve the problems that you are experiencing in your business. And what inevitably happens with these 7 and 8 figure businesses is that they basically run a little bit like a pirate ship. They're typically informal, everything's done on a handshake, and they ultimately do things reactively. And the often feedback that I get from many CEOs who are basically running the operations is that, hey, my team don't understand my vision and they can't execute to the level that I want them to. Well, it's not always because they're incapable, it's because they don't have clarity around what your success looks like, and you haven't necessarily set them up in a structure that allows them to maximize their probability of success. Now, I've been fortunate enough to study under some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, and I've had some phenomenal mentors who have walked me through some very different business operating systems. And we've taken the best of all of them and combined them into what we call the Aureus operating system, that is basically a combination of 6 core things that every business needs in order to be successful. So the first part that I learned from a fellow by the name of Cameron Herold, that is called the Vivid Vision. Now, the Vivid Vision is basically a process of you and your leadership team documenting your vision for the next 3 years. Why 3 years? Well, 3 years, I believe, is long enough to achieve some really amazing things and to set a North Star that is ambitious enough for you to pursue. However, it's close enough that you can make meaningful steps towards bringing that vision to life without the entire plan completely changing within that period of time. Some people talk about 10 years of having this big BHAG, and some people talk about 1 year. I think 3 years is the perfect balance. And in that vivid vision, it should be the documentation of what you're actually trying to achieve over the next 3 years. There should be clearly outlined principles and commandments, which are basically the values that your business must operate within. And that will help you evaluate, are you bringing the right people on board, and are they on the right seat of the bus? Third, there should be shared goals across all layers of the organization, and everyone should be clear on what is required in order to execute on that vision. And there should be really clear roles, that every single person should have a really clear job description and should be measured by what we call OKRs, outcomes and key results. Because the biggest issue that I've often seen is that you've found somebody cool and then you've created a role for them, as opposed to understanding the role that the business needs and then trying to find the best person to fulfill that particular role. 2 is the strategic plan, which is usually 12 months. And that comes down to a 1-page business plan, which basically should be, okay, what exactly do we need to do over the next 12 months in order to keep us on track for our 3-year vivid vision? Second, what is the cash flow forecast of, if we execute on this plan, where is it going to take us? Then we need to have a forecasted organizational chart. You should know what your organizational design looks like now, and then you should know exactly who and when you should be adding extra resources to your team so there's never any surprise and reactive hires. And then the last part is the annual wealth ladder, that you and all of your leadership team and potentially even all of your team members should write a letter of all of your goals, dreams and aspirations that you want as an individual over the next 12 months. And you should share that openly, because there must be vested interest across the team. We're always going to look out for ourselves unless the objectives of the business and the individual are aligned. Now, we get into 90-day planning. 90-day planning is really important. And this is about us getting clear on what are the boulders that we are trying to push forward as an organization over the course of the next 90 days? In other words, what are the 3 biggest challenges or bottlenecks that we need to solve as a business in order to help us continue to propel? Because 90 days, once again, is enough time to get some really meaningful projects done, but it's short enough time to keep people on track and accountable to achieving those results. And it's about deep diving with your leadership team, understanding what are the biggest root causes of your issues, and then strategizing to come up with what are the projects that you're all going to work on as a collective in order to solve those issues. Then we get down into our monthly milestones. The idea is that we should be project managing month 1, 2, 3 of that quarterly plan. So by the time we get to the end of the quarter, there should be absolutely no surprises of whether we are on track or off track. We should know exactly what's going on, what is progressing, what's not, and potentially what other issues have come up along the way. Next is our weekly management meetings. In many systems, for example, like in EOS, they call it the level 10. And this is about having a forum where you bring your leaders together or you bring your departments together and you have high-level conversations around what are the wins, what's not working, how are we progressing with our projects, are we on track or off track, and what are the issues that are getting in the way of our success, and how do we solve them permanently together? And the often thing that I see is that so many businesses lack this kind of this meeting that becomes the kind of connection between big picture strategy and day-to-day execution, and ultimately keeping everybody connected and working together to elevate the business and focus on rising tides lifting all ships. And then the last pillar is what we call the Friday self-assessment. We must have some sort of survey in the organization that allows us to pulse check each and every single team member once a week. So I've been doing this for over a decade, and I've got thousands of responses from our Friday self-assessment because it's mandatory for every single member in the team, including myself and all of our leadership team, to complete the Friday self-assessment that goes through what did I do this week? What did I achieve? What did I learn? What didn't go so well? What were my KPIs? And did I achieve them? What am I trying to achieve next week? Are there any things that I need in terms of support? How am I feeling? What's getting in the way of my success? And we track this on a regular basis because this allows us to acknowledge things that sometimes would have flown under the radar. And forgive Egbert, he's yelling at me. That wouldn't have been acknowledged, right? And we can recognize people for their achievements that potentially would have flown under the radar. 2, it gives your team members a forum to share their concerns or issues that they don't want to bother you with because you are too busy. And that allows things that could have been solved really, really quickly to then turn into blazing fires, and they potentially get to a point where you can't solve them. You're only finding out when somebody resigns, right? And being able to get ideas from the front lines of your organization, because you're disconnected from that front line. The bigger your business gets, and you need those optics because that's what's going to help you build a customer-centric organization that's profitable and scalable. So if you're a 7 or 8 figure business and you don't do any of these things, then you are leaving tremendous opportunity on the table. For the clients that we've helped implement this, in many cases, they've grown by over $1 million as a result of getting that cadence right in their business and allowing them to scale strategically while stepping into that CEO position, creating the structure for everyone to work within, and then getting everyone singing off the same song sheet so we can channel their superpowers in the same direction. So if you want some help with putting this into place, hit me up in my bio, click the link, complete the Wealth Health Check. Let's have a conversation around how we help you improve your financial and business operating system so we can get that thing humming like a machine.